Hey, what's up guys? Today we are gonna learn how to use NestJS with GraphQL, Prisma, and Postgres. Also, we are going to use Docker to run our Postgres server. So you have to have Docker installed on your machine. Also, we are going to use the previous project, the Monorepo project, to start this new one. That's awesome, right? But before we start, hey editor, please, drop the intro. Okay, guys, now we are ready to jump in the code. And as a first step, we are gonna clone our previous project, the Monorepo project. If you want to understand more about how the Monorepo works, you can check my Monorepo project video from the beginning by clicking on the flag menu on the top. Also, I'm gonna leave the link to this Monorepo project down below in the comments. So let's open the GitHub website. We are gonna clone this project. So click on the code button and select the link for the GitHub project. We are gonna use this link. We are gonna create our directory, the Monorepo project, and let's enter inside this folder. Then we are gonna do git clone and we can paste the link. Hit enter and they go. We can see the folder and we can enter in this folder to open our Visual Studio Code. So now guys, let's type code dot and hit enter. We are gonna open our Visual Studio Code with this project. With our Visual Studio Code open, we can open our project in the apps folder and we are gonna open API project. So now let's create our Docker file. And type docker-compose.yaml file. And then we are going to use this configuration for our Postgres inside our Docker. Okay, now maybe you are thinking what this configuration is about. Well, this configuration will create a service named DB and we are going to install Postgres. And we are going to expose port 4532, enabling our application to connect to Postgres database. And after that, we have the credentials. Right. Now, guys, we have our Postgres file ready to start our Docker. So the next step, we are going to set up GraphQL for our project. And we have to install a few dependencies for that. So let's go to the official NestJS website and we can search for GraphQL. So here we can find this installation, this line, npm install NestJS GraphQL, NestJS Apollo GraphQL, and the server express. So let's copy it and let's install it in our API application. So now guys, let's go into our source folder, into our API project, and open our app.module.ts file. And now we are going to use this snippet to configure our GraphQL service. And don't forget to import all the dependencies. Paste that in, and the error is gone. So that's it for our GraphQL configuration, guys. Our GraphQL is ready. So now, guys, it's time to install Prisma. Prisma is our object relational mapper, and it helps us to perform queries against our database. It makes it super easy and comfortable to interact with the database. So I go back to NestJS documentation and search for Prisma. And first things first, so let's install Prisma as dev dependency. I'm gonna find the command to install Prisma under setup Prisma, and I'm gonna grab this this npm install command here, and I'm gonna paste it in the terminal and hit enter. So now we can run this command here. Which will create a Prisma directory with the schema Prisma file. And in it, we will have a schema for our Prisma file. And then also we will have a URL property here that points to an environment variable called database URL, which we can find in our env file. And what we can see here is that the string is not correct because in our Docker Compose file, we named our user as root and we gave it a password of 123456 and the Monorepo GraphQL Prisma as the database. So we have to change our database URL to this one here. By the way, guys, it is good to save the file every time we change them, right? But we can configure Visual Studio Code to do it for us automatically. So in order to save automatically our files, we can click on File menu and select Auto Save option by now. And the file will be saved automatically. We don't need to worry about this anymore. Now, let's create a model in our schema.prisma file. So let's open our schema.prisma file. And we will have a user model with the following properties. So we can type model user, open curly braces, type ID as a string, is an ID type, and the default will be CUID. Then we're gonna create a username property, type string, and then email, type string as well, password, type string, but of course we're gonna hash this password, and also we are gonna use hashed refresh token as a string, but this type will be nullable. And then created at, type date time, and also update at date time. And maybe now you are thinking about why we are having these properties here like password and hashed refresh token. But the reason why is because later we are going to implement authentication in Next.js in a future video, and we are going to use this project as a basic project as well. So stay tuned, guys, in the next video. But for now, guys, don't worry about this, because this video is to talk about how to link up NestJS with GraphQL, Prisma, and Postgres all together. Okay, so that is our goal for this video. So now, guys, it's time to install another dependency, which is our Prisma client. So we are gonna type npm install Prisma client. And one important thing here, we have to remember every time we update our schema file, we have to make sure to run the command npx prisma generate to regenerate Prisma client assets. But also we can use the command prisma generate dash dash watch, which will continue watching the schema.prisma file. And whenever we have a change on this file, it automatically regenerates Prisma client. So after that, it's also recommended that we create a separate Prisma service. So let's create this Prisma service. So now we have to add the Prisma service code here. So let's go back to the official NestJS website, and we can grab all this code here to use in the Prisma client in our NestJS API. And all we have to do here is to go into prisma.service.ts and paste all this code in. And that's it. We do not need to do anything else in this file. So that's it, guys. We are ready to start our Docker and Progress database. So for that, type Docker Composer up. So now that we have our Postgres running in Docker, we can run the migrations to create our model. So we can run this command here, npx prisma migrate dev dash dash name init. This is because it's our first migration. So now we see that the folder migrations have been created. And then we have this folder here, which named underscore init inside. This file, you can see a table called the user has been created with these columns, where this column is optional. All other are non-nullable, but this is not available by default. And you also see we have one primary key, which is our ID, right? Again, after performing this migrate command, our database should be updated. Let's see how it looks like. I can type npx Prisma Studio. Then we are going to run the Prisma Studio and we can connect it to the database as well. And now we can see that we can connect it to our Postgres database. And we are also able to see our newly created user table with the following columns here. So now we can see we can perform correct DB operations now, and how easy it is. So let me create a user register here. I'm gonna do it manually. So I'm gonna type my name here, email test, a password, and we don't need to do anything else. That's it, guys. One user has been created. So let's go to our app.service.ts file. And here we are going to inject Prisma service to our app. So let me inject the Prisma service here. I'm gonna type, I'm gonna create a constructor here and pass as a private our Prisma service here into the constructor. But don't forget, guys, all servers running GraphQL must have at least one query to be considered a valid GraphQL server. Without it, the Apollo server package will throw an exception and the server will fail to start. So let me put this query here. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna create a variable here, user, and I'm gonna call the GraphQL Prisma.user property from our database using find first method that will return our first user from the database. And I'm gonna pass then to the return of this function. By the way, I imported this query property here by mistake, so let's remove it. Mm, And also, this query decorator is in the wrong place, so let's put in the right place. Also, we have to remember that Prisma methods will return a promise, right? So we have to change our method to be an async method. Don't forget that. And also, it will return a promise type string here, right? And in our app.controller.ts, we have also to change the type here as a promise type string, as we have in our hello get hello method. So now the last step will be build our project. So let's go back to our main folder of the application and type npm run build and type enter. It seems like we don't have Turbo installed in this project. It's because we cloned it from GitHub, right? But we didn't install the dependencies. So what we have to do here is to type npm install in the root folder of this project, and we'll install all the dependencies of this project. So let's do this. npm install enter, and all the dependencies of all projects will be installed. And then we can run npm run build. And that's it. We have all the projects ready to go. Our API, Prisma, and GraphQL. But also we have to remember we have our front-end application running together, right? So let's have a look on how it's looked like right now. Yes, it's running and is bringing the user already, right? We can see hello world Tiago as a username as we pass it from the Prisma object. So that's it, guys. I hope that was very useful to you. Let me know in the comments what you think. Would you do in this way? Would you do in another way? I'd like to know what kind of feedback you have also. Make sure to subscribe if you like content like this. I have a lot of more planned this year, so make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified. And I see you in the next video, guys.